Well, if it isn't you again. Welcome back to Press YYZ, episode 29. You can follow us on Twitter at Press YYZ, where you can see when we're going live and when we're doing all the updates to stuff. My name is Alexander Ballin, and joined by Mr. Mitch George. I said your handle.
Combat delayed.
Good one. AJ Fraser.
Oh, I'm so sad.
And finally, the one who, keeps us all together, Mr. Alexander Kazina.
I mean, I was going to say, the good thing about video game delays is that there's always the halo over them.
That was a little forced, I'm not going to lie. So,
would you believe me if I told you that I actually thought of that before the show and didn't just think it on the spot?
I'm going to pretend to believe that you did just come up with it on the spot, and that's why it's excusable. So with that, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but this episode we're going to be talking about our thoughts on the Avengers beta, some news, some major Xbox news with Halo Infinite and the Series X launching, and as well, for our topic of the show, we are going to be discussing video game delays in their entirety. What are they all about? Who knows? But for right now, we're going to mostly just get into what we've been playing. And I want to start it off with the big elephant in the room, the one that we've all been kind of playing. How's
Halo
the Avengers
5.
beta, guys?
What?
Good one.
How's the broken IKEA furniture?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Kingdom Hearts Dark Road.
So Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers.
It's surprisingly not terrible. I had a really good time playing it this weekend. I'm dying. Give me a second.
Yeah, you go recover, and I'll talk more about Avengers. Cozy, you and I were able to play for a bit, and
we were.
It's a lot of fun when you play with other people.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of that translates to playing with randoms or playing on your own, because I almost exclusively played with friends, which makes almost any multiplayer experience better. But I had a blast.
I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I think the biggest surprise for me with this game is how akin it feels to AAA action games like Spider-Man 2018 or God of War. I was expecting it to feel much more MMO-esque or much more like many of the kind of the raid encounters in games like Destiny, for example, where you're just doing chip damage, and ultimately what's important is not each individual shot or attack that you do, but like your overall strategy to bring whatever your opponent is their HP down to 0. But instead, I found an experience where each hit that you inflict upon your opponent feels impactful. One of my favorite characters from the beta was Miss Marvel, and like the way that her rubber-like punches bounce off of opponents felt really, really good, as did Thor's Mjolnir hammer attacks and even some of Iron Man's repulsor beams. And I think right now that's the best thing I can say about this game, is that it just feels genuinely good. By the way, I just want to quickly say, for those of you who are watching us on Twitch, we added in Twitter handles to the borders that each of us appear inside of. Whenever we switch over from like 4 people to 3 people, which just happened for a brief second there, the Twitter handles don't change automatically. So please excuse the slight technical weirdness of that, and know that we're going to try our best to keep the show going along tightly and concisely going forward.
So restarting Discord, my milliseconds are now back to they're at acceptable levels, but it's still fluctuating between green, yellow, and red. So who knows?
It's still a little pixely, but that's fine.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to get back to talking about Avengers instead of Discord.
Sorry about that.
Twitch. Yeah, it's gonna be fun for you to edit after the fact. Yeah, I really enjoyed the limited time you get to play with Thor and Cap in the San Francisco demo that we've seen for the last couple of years, and digging into the nitty gritty of some of the characters in the multiplayer. God, it feels good to play some of these characters, and it's not. I mean, it's not a super deep experience. It is a little button mashy, but that's kind of what I want out of an Avengers game, to be honest, for me at least. And I know there's going to be people that knock that, but running around with Iron Man and switching between your repulsors and your lasers for some more AoE damage and switching back and using rockets. Man, Iron Man was such a blast to play, literally.
Mhm.
I think in terms of the characters I played in the beta, I enjoyed him the most, followed by Black Widow, Miss Marvel, and Hulk. And my plan for this weekend, because the beta does carry over to the next 2 weekends, is to play more Hulk. Because I really only played Hulk in the levels you have to play as him for the story content to open up the war table to do the multiplayer missions. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping I can do more of that this weekend.
So I didn't get a chance to play it because I didn't pre-order it, because overarching philosophy, you probably shouldn't pre-order games in general. But the I heard about the Hulk is, as like he's been nerfed a bit. And you didn't get that much to you didn't get that much time to play with him, but
What do you mean by nerfed?
um
Exactly.
so when you think of the Hulk, you think he's going to be able to just run through shit and knock people over, but like people are very easily able to like dodge out of the way of his attacks and
Okay.
all
Right.
that sort of stuff. And it's just like it did. Um, apparently, once again, I didn't play it myself. Didn't uh, feel like the Hulk should feel like he didn't grab two cars and slam them onto his fists like boxing gloves or anything like that. But I don't know.
In Hulk Ultimate Destruction, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I want to take more time to play as him this weekend, like I said. And AJ, I hope that you do get a chance to jump into it this weekend now that the beta will be open to all PS4 players. But if not, we'll continue to tell you how much I'm enjoying it, at least.
Let me tell you, the Hulk is powerful enough to destroy the frame rate of the game. That's for sure.
That's true.
That's the biggest problem that I have with the beta as of right now, and this could potentially change with the full game. I don't really expect it to, because this is such a late generation PS4 game that I feel like the performance is like it's just on the like cusp of what the PS4 is going to be capable of. I have a PS4 Pro, and and the thing is, like, Avengers has a performance mode and a like resolution mode, and for the most part, when you're playing as any of the other heroes, when you're in performance mode, it's a very clean 60. The Hulk just brings that down, and when you're playing with 4 people, and then there's the particle effects of all the different heroes and everything, it just really there's times where it is chugging, and you can genuinely count the frames. It's This will be a great game to play on the PS5 when it comes out. I wish I could get this game on PC, but I wanted to play Spider-Man.
I wanted to go back to something Mitch you were mentioning earlier. You know, you were talking about how this game is like a little bit simpler than others of its ilk. I talked a little bit about this when we were playing it, streaming it together. I appreciate how refreshingly simple its story is thus far. I think that, you know, in a world where it feels like every other big games as a service experience, like The Division 2 or Destiny 2, is like more of a puzzle than it is a narrative. It's something to be deciphered and uncovered by reading a million like data entries and lore entries and, you know, assembling all these 4-dimensional puzzles. This is a lot more straightforward, and normally I would be critical of that for being straightforward, but in this case I appreciate that it is simple, and I'm actually genuinely looking forward to seeing how it unfolds for that very reason.
Yeah, the story presentation, I mean, there literally is story presentation, where in Destiny specifically, because that's the one I have the most experience with, it's kind of not there. The story and the lore are told like on
Grimoire
websites
cards.
grimoire cards, that's what they're called. Yeah, just like outside of the game. So it is a nice change of pace to have this style of game and actually have a plot. And I think it helps that it is the Avengers, the Avengers IP, that kind of makes it a little bit easier to be able to follow along with what's going on. I am very interested to see where it goes. Like, I'm already, especially like Miss Marvel specifically, her character being sort of the POV for both the player and and the the introduction into the Avengers is, I think, a great choice, and she's just so charismatic. I really like her. She's my favorite personality-wise, at least, of the ones that we've seen so far.
As far as I can tell, they are pulling out all of the stops when it comes to the story content in terms of they're crafting an experience for people that don't want a multiplayer experience as well. As far as I can tell, like you'll get story out of this, and they really have gathered the Avengers of video game acting, right? In the fact that they've got Troy Baker, Nolan North, Laura Bailey. They're really putting the time and effort. And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, they're in everything," but I mean, there's a reason they're in everything. They're really, really good at what they do. So I'm looking forward to seeing the story content delivered on September 4th.
How many of the upcoming beta sessions do you guys think you're going to be playing ahead of its release? Because personally, as much as I enjoyed the beta session this past weekend, I don't see myself playing a lot more unless it's a thing where like you guys are like, hey, we need a fourth wingman, and I'm like, well, I'm just so happen to be available, I'll join in. Other than scenarios like that, I don't see myself playing that much more.
Yeah.
I want to play this weekend because AJ hasn't played it, and Loki Mike, friend of the show, hasn't played it and was going to probably jump into the beta this weekend. If either of them are playing and want company, then I will jump in as Hulk and get more time as Hulk to explore more of his skill tree. Because I feel like for the other three characters, I used them enough, and I explored the majority of the skills available in the one skill tree that's available in the beta. Hulk is the one that I didn't really dig into, and I feel like if I did that, maybe I would enjoy the character a little more.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same sort of boat as you, Cozy. I've kind of gotten my fill. I understand what the game is going to be, how it plays. I'm definitely getting it day one now because I now have sent the money to Mitch
Thank you for sending that today.
Yeah, for the pre-order. So I'm there's no turning back now. So I think at this point, because I think we went through every single mission that there is available in the beta. If not, we're close.
I completed every mission for sure. I don't know how much I did with you or without, but
it feels like
everything shows mission complete.
Yeah, it feels like I have. So it's like I've got a good understanding. I feel like I've played the characters enough that it's like I get a understanding of them and I know what they'll entail in the full game. I don't really want to like get to the point where I'm like, oh, I feel like I've quote unquote, I know that there will be more expanded on in the full game, but I don't want to feel like I've mastered one of these characters yet because there is still a full game experience waiting for me. So I kind of wanted to just get a little taste of everyone and then wait until the full game, which is probably what I'm going to do. Maybe I might jump in this weekend if, like what Mitch was saying, if like there's a group going that needs a fourth or whatever, but it's not very high on my priority now. So with that, I think we hit most of the bases when it comes to Avengers, and I can see AJ's feeling a little left out. So you've been playing Halo 5 custom games. How's that been going?
So like I mentioned previously on previous podcasts, I'm a bit of a Halo 5 apologist. I don't hate it the way everybody turned on Halo 4 and 5 and stuff like that. And I just got bored and was decided I'll boot up Halo 5, which I'm still, playing through some of the campaign on, just for fun. I booted it up and I decided, I never really go into custom games, right? And so one of the letdowns at launch I remember was specifically with the Forge mode. All of the assets that they let you build with looked like alpha, smooth, like no texture, basic assets for the most part. But I'm guessing since then there's been a couple patches and updates where they've probably tweaked some stuff around. But the two custom games that I found when browsing it actually stood out to me. One was called Halo Crossy Road. And basically, they set up this map where you spawn in at this beach and you have to try and cross traffic and jump over. They call it Crossy Road because kids today don't know about Frogger, but you have to cross this road and try not to get hit by these actual car assets that are speeding by super fast. And then a river and stuff like that. All also trying to defend yourself from other players who are trying to kill you. And that was actually it took me back to like old like Halo 3 custom map days where that was like all the rage, where people would come up with the insane game types and stuff like that. But the other one that I played was actually like super kind of they put some time into this one where it's they called it Escape the Death Star, and it's basically a lot of the a good interpretation of the scenes from episode 4, A New Hope, where like for example, like on the Death Star, they got the control panel and all the doors and stuff open up, and then you have to get down into the trash compactor and you got to escape that and things like that. But what they did with that is they made it a infection game type. Okay. So the teams start off lopsided, and the majority of players are trying to escape the Death Star, but if they die, they get put onto the other team, and then they have to try and stop the other people from escaping. And when you're on the other team, the zombie team, I actually got to play as there's two types of characters you can be, and there can only be one of a second type of character. But the first one is just you get a brute plasma rifle because the blasters are red, obviously, and then and it changes your armor color to white, so you look like a stormtrooper. But then the other color, the other person, one other person, their armor goes all black. They walk really slow, and they get a red energy sword. And you have a lot of health, and it's, I don't know, it's super fun, and messing around with Halo custom games and stuff like that just really made me nostalgic for the old Halo 3 days and whatnot.
Yeah, Halo custom games have always been always hold a very near and dear place in my heart, and it's nice to hear that Halo 5 still has the potential for it, even if my thoughts about the game aside, it is still nice that still exists in some form or another. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to take over for a little bit because I've got a doozy of things that happened this last week.
Great.
So
you moved.
I did. And when you move, sometimes you have to go buy new furniture because you just don't have stuff. And so on Thursday, the day after we recorded the podcast, I'm like, I'm going to go to IKEA and I need to get a bookshelf. And it was
confusing as all hell.
It was the one thing that I needed to feel like my room is complete, because I have a bunch of boxes with all of my games, my movies, my books, some statues. Like I wanted a place to put those things. So I went to IKEA and I got the bookshelf. I got a Billy, as it's called there, and it's
a Billy.
Yeah.
How do you spell it? Billi?
It's just it's the
no, it's Billy like the name.
Yeah, like the name Billy, like Billy.
I like IKEA a lot, but since COVID-19, they closed down the cafeteria there, which is really too bad.
Yeah.
What do you mean good? The cafeteria was great.
It was. I mean, but it's also a cesspool of bacteria.
Yeah, it's not. Not a good.
Again, you're correct. It's good that they closed it down for COVID-19, but again, the cafeteria was great.
Yeah, you can miss it, but it is still a good thing that it's gone for now, at least. Hopefully one day it'll make its return. But so with that, I got my bookshelf and I'm like, okay. And so I decided to also go to Costco, and I'm like, all right. This is a little bit of a tangent, but we'll get back on the main road soon. But when we went to Costco, I saw a very, very, very good deal that I could not avoid. It is an LG 27-inch 144 hertz monitor, 1 millisecond delay with G-Sync for, I don't remember what the exact specifications of the monitor. I have the box over there and that. that wardrobe, but whatever. But yeah, so I saw it, and when I read the price, I did like a triple take, because the price that they were asking for was about, $150 cheaper than Amazon, give or take. And so with that, I bought it immediately. I got Mitch to buy it, and I got a friend of the show, Loki Mike, to also buy it. So I did a lot of
influence on all of us.
yeah. And I'm very close to going back and buying a second one, because it
Hey,
is
you too? It's real good.
as soon as I turned it on, because I've had a 144 hertz monitor for as long as I've had my computer. It's for about 4 years now. As soon as I turned this one on, I was like, this is even better than the one I had before, because like the color, specifically the color range, is really nice. It looks immaculate. I've only played a few games on it so far, but it's just so great. So I will plead to anybody who has a Costco membership, go and see if you can find this monitor if you are looking for one, because it is a genuine steal. Back to the IKEA bookshelf, because that was a little bit of a tangent. So to just say, like, the idea was I was just going to go buy a bookshelf. I bought a bookshelf, I bought a monitor, and I bought whiskey. The whiskey's gonna be important, because I put together the bookshelf, and I started putting all my stuff on it. It was really nice. I have the Gears of War 3 collector's edition statue of Marcus Phoenix. I had my Johnny Silverhand, my Destiny Ghost, all my games, my books. As I was putting the last few things on, the entire shelf collapsed on top of me, because I was going to the bottom shelf, and it just all came down on top of me.
Oh.
And yeah, it sucked. It was not great.
Do you have neighbors below you?
There are people who live in the basement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I was gonna say Fall Guys has invaded real life.
Yeah, it sucked, and I genuinely was kind of like freaking out for a couple minutes, because I was like, I don't know what it was the first time since having moved, because this is the first time I'm living on my own, like, and I genuinely felt like I was alone for the first time ever, and it was not great. And so what do you do when you feel like that? You resort to drinking.
I was going to say, that sounds like that scene in Spider-Man Homecoming where Spider-Man has a big cinder block on top of him and he's yelling out into the void for help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I basically felt like that, but I didn't get to the point. Well, actually, I did kind of come around to the point where I'm like, no, I got this. You got this, Spider-Man, because like I went on a bit of a drunken tirade on Twitter and on Discord and on Instagram. I was crying to Red Dead Redemption. I was crying to Red Dead Redemption music. I was like, because I came to the conclusion from about 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. I have unbelievable self-confidence, and so I'm like, I'm fucking awesome. And so it was a whole like adventure that I went on. But one thing that I need to highlight is I wanted to play a video game, but I didn't want to sit at my desk, so I actually turned on Animal Crossing for the first time in many months.
Oh,
and the only thing I remember about it, and I made a tweet about it, is that if you haven't played the game for months, there are bugs in your house, but you're not allowed to use the net in your house. So the only way to get rid of the bugs is you have to step on them. And a little ghost comes out of the bugs too. I was cackling at that. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Just like, what the fuck?
Hold on. Is this actually something that happens in this freaking animal game?
Apparently,
it wasn't just him being drunk. It actually happens.
Yeah, if you don't play for months, there are just bugs in your house.
So I have a similar quarantine-related IKEA story of. It was during that period where I was here alone because Carmen was off working.
Hold on a second. Hold on. We need to interrupt this. Did I just get rickrolled? You, Alex, you just went on a super long tangent about living by yourself and the anxiety that you feel from that and coping with it. And it all culminated in you talking about Animal Crossing again.
That was...
Nathan will be so proud.
Yeah. That was unintended. I mean, the Animal Crossing did happen, but I didn't mean it to end on that, I guess. But I mean, yeah, I got really sad that my bookshelf collapsed. And if for those watching live on Twitch, that's the remnants of it. I'm gonna try putting it together again when I got a little bit of courage.
The other
Yeah.
thing you can do, you can contact IKEA support and they'll just send you new stuff if you broke anything. Because that happened to me during the quarantine. I was trying to put together a dresser alone, and I tried to stand it up, and it didn't stand, and it fell on one side, and that whole long side piece of the IKEA thing, like shattered into a million pieces.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know if
this
it's
one piece is busted. I need a new one, and they sent it over. It took a while, but they sent it over.
It's not broken enough yet for me to want to have to talk to IKEA support. So I'm gonna try it again, and if it collapses for a second time, then I will return it.
I mean, they do have text chat. You don't have to actually physically talk to a person, which is nice.
Okay. Well, then maybe I might consider it. But yeah, so that was my weekend for the most part. I guess I'll quickly wrap up the final things that I've been doing because this I can get through very quickly. I got my VR set up and I started playing a new game called Pistol Whip. And holy shit, this is such a genuine fun experience. So the main idea of the game is you are perpetually moving forward. You have no control of you moving forward, but enemies, like silhouette enemies, will come out and you have a pistol and you just have to shoot them on the beat of the music. It is like Beat Saber, but you are John Wick. It is fucking awesome. It is genuinely some of the most unadulterated fun. Like, I feel like a badass while playing it. I know I absolutely don't look like one, but it is so much fun. So I think it just came to PSVR this year as well. So if you have a PSVR, or if you have any like Windows VR, whether it be Vive, Oculus, or the Index, please get Pistol Whip because I think it's more fun than Beat Saber. The only problem is there's no custom songs in it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing Beat Saber has over it. So
that's not holding me back because Beat Saber on PSVR doesn't have custom songs anyway.
Oh, okay.
That just got me thinking really quick. What was there was a game on Steam. I don't want to open Steam right now while we're doing the podcast. A music-based game that loaded your own tracks. There's I think it also starts with an A.
It does. It's audio something. I've had it in my Steam wish list for years at this point.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
I feel like something like a game like Beat Saber or even Pistol Whip or any other kind of rhythm game really needs to like team up with Spotify to like kind of integrate into like all those songs into a game like that where
that's got to be a licensing nightmare though.
But if you think about it, like all it's doing is reading file data, right? And if you can download tracks off Spotify and just put them in this game, right? You could.
It would have to be something like you have to link your Spotify account or something.
If you link your Spotify, then they can claim. Then they can complain.
There's licensing nightmare. That sounds like. But what's not a licensing nightmare is the game Kingdom Hearts, because
Audio Surf. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm amazed that you actually queued me up to talk about this one. I thought you were just going to gloss over it.
Also, Kingdom Hearts is a licensing nightmare.
Yeah, the thing is like, out of the rest of the stuff that's on here, I'm like, that works kind of with my segue. So Cozy, you've been playing Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. What the fuck is that, and why should anyone want to play that?
All right, so a couple years ago, they released a Kingdom Hearts game on mobile called Kingdom Hearts Union X, or alternatively pronounced Union Key. It's a whole big thing. Anyways, I'm just going to call it Union X. It was a gacha RPG that sucked me in for many a year, and eventually I just divorced myself when I realized that the gacha was controlling myself a little bit too strongly. About a few months ago, they announced that they were going to be releasing an expansion to Union X called Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, and that it was going to be basically focusing on the backstory of Xehanort, which is sort of like the main antagonist of the series, going over his early days as a young Keyblade wielder and all the adventures that he went on with his young boy band friends. So I recently re-downloaded Kingdom Hearts X to check out Dark Road, and I gotta be honest, I'm surprised by how much I'm enjoying it thus far. What makes this game great is that there's a lot of automatic functionalities that allow you to basically enjoy the game passively while you do something else. There's like an auto battle functionality that basically allows you to go into battle against Heartless, which are the series' traditional enemies, and just kind of go through and fight them until you lose HP, and then it brings you back to the title screen. There's also functionality that automatically earns you experience points over time that, of course, you can then level up your character with. It's been a great game for me to kind of like have on the background while I work on something more important, like a new gamer script, for example. And while its story is a little bit all over the place, as is typical of the Kingdom Hearts series, I'm still looking forward to seeing where it's going to go. Mitch, did you have a question?
I'm just waiting for Alex to say something snarky about the fact that Kingdom Hearts is a thing.
I don't need
Alex?
to say anything. You kind of summed up the feel. I mean, just your explanation. I'm just like, yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
I have a question. What you described there, is it almost like a clicker in a way?
I mean, it's not even like that simple, but I mean, it is a similar sort of vibe of like just sort of set it and leave it be, and just sort of go. Yeah, exactly.
How integral is this game to the Kingdom Hearts lore and story? Like, do you need to play this game to understand what's going on?
If you want to know about Xehanort.
Well, so like it's funny. Somebody who I trust a lot on Twitter. Actually, the reason why I even got into this game, I was going to ignore this game. The reason why I got into it is somebody who I trust a lot on Twitter posted like, oh man, the second story update for this game is actually really intriguing. So I've been going through with it. I finished the first story segment of the game, so I actually have not started the story update that convinced me to get into this, but I'm genuinely intrigued. I've enjoyed some of the Kingdom Hearts series twists and turns in the past, and I'm interested to see what this one yields.
Fair enough. So finally, well, not finally, but another thing that we've all been playing is Fall Guys. Mitch, you're saying that it's Game of the Year potential. Please go on.
No, it's not Game of the Year potential. It's Platinum is not obtainable enough.
You're playing goddamn Cuphead right now, and you're talking about an unattainable Platinum.
No, I've been playing Cuphead, and I mean, I'm not super far into it, but I can already tell that it's going to be pretty manageable in the long run. This one, on the other hand, like a game like Cuphead, it's incredibly challenging, but it's always fair the entire way through, and it's incredibly easy to get back into whatever boss battle you just got pummeled inside of and have another go at it. Something like Fall Guys, you have to do a lot of waiting around and have to have a lot of luck on your side if you want to get those 5 wins in a row.
One trophy does not a bad game make.
I know.
So
all I'm saying is that it has to automatically come in number 2 for not being a perfect platinum.
This is a democracy, not a.
I love this game. I'm not trying to come down too hard on it. I'm just saying that more respect has to be had for trophy lovers like myself. That's all.
I think Fall Guys is fine. You know, I maintain everything I said last week about it being frustrating as all hell. You know, Game of the Year potential is, you know, a bit of a stretch. But like for me, this is just like a good hang out with your friends game. It's definitely not something that I want to like that I'm itching to play as soon as I get home, and you know, I gotta see what happens. I gotta see what happens next. That sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I maintain the part where like I wish there was room for a little more actual skill and little less luck. to be involved. Mostly with just the controls and stuff like that. And I'm sure they could, theoretically, like in a future update, maybe next season or something like that, they figure some of that stuff out. But like, yes, everybody has to fight the same physics. That's all well and good, but like, if I could just be, you could just be standing there, running from one end to the other, and it feels like sometimes you trip and fall down, and like the timing window for jumps is like just that little bit off, right? And like I almost wish you had independent, like a gang beast, so you had independent control of your hands, where you could, like, if you're let's take the seesaw level for example. If you're rolling off the seesaw level, you should be able to grab onto the thing and like one hand after the other climb up to the other side if you had to, and save yourself. That, like, that little bit more control is what I'm looking for with Fall Guys, but it's not there yet.
Well, it's funny that you mention, Fall Guys controlling poorly. One of my biggest grievances with Fall Guy thus far has been all of the grab the tail games, like Royal Fumble,
yeah.
which is the potential last game you can encounter in a episode of Fall Guys, where you have to grab the tail and hold on to it. They actually announced very recently that they're going to be reducing the chance of Royal Fumble appearing as the final segment of an episode in Fall Guys as part of the new patch.
So they're trying to improve it based on the way that, like, I said, Game of the Year potential. So can I talk now about why I feel like this has Game of the Year potential?
Yeah, go ahead.
I really want to
5 minutes after Alex asked me to talk about it. So for me, Fall Guys is a game that it is a zeitgeist game right now. It is that game that, for whatever reason, everyone is gravitating towards. But we've had this happen before with games like Animal Crossing, PUBG, games that sort of, for whatever reason, they become the game of the moment and become more than what could have been originally envisioned for the game. I think it being on PlayStation Plus gives it a player base that it absolutely needed in order to be successful, at least on console. And everything about this game is just, even if you're frustrated, you're having fun with the frustration, or you're breaking your controller against a wall. But the game is designed in such a way that a game like this, you don't want there to be, like, if there were ways to climb out of points of failure or avoid some of the bottlenecks that show up in the game, in a game like the Door Dash, where you have to crash the doors in. If there were ways to get around that, then it wouldn't, at least for me, be as enjoyable, because the jankiness or the design of these games lends itself to being a fun time, even if you're not doing well, where it is Alex in my ear screaming, "Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck,"
Yeah.
over and over again because he can't get through a door, and then eventually does do it and gets through and qualifies, or doesn't, and we all laugh at him, and it's great. Or we get to the end and he wins a game of the Fall Mountain, where he climbed
Yeah.
up the top, right? So I've never really been someone to play games with other people, and this year has been a bit of a change to that. And Fall Guys, for me,
Totally.
for that kind of experience, is absolutely up there for me in terms of my games of the year.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to say shout out to Gamer Adam, Robbie Rob, Loki Mike, and a ton of other people for jumping in and playing with me, and I know you guys as well. I'm actually currently on screen showing off a very unfortunate incident that happened while some of us were playing together, and the memories that we've formed together through our playing of Fall Guys are they're going to definitely remain lodged in my mind for quite some time.
Yeah. I think this game has brought the Kind of Funny Toronto community together just a little bit closer, and I love it for that. And like, yeah, like I'm extraordinarily vocal while playing this game, but I'm not, even like with me yelling "fuck you, you stupid wolf face fuck," I'm having a
Wow.
great time regardless. That's probably
like
a direct
trucker when we're playing.
that's probably a
God.
direct quote, like, So I'm loving this game. I can't wait to see what ideas they come up with next for the next games, because they said that they are going to be adding more events and more games like in the coming weeks. So I can't wait to see what is next. And I'm loving this game. Like, I definitely think that this is like one of the most fun experiences I've had this entire year.
Yeah, I'm sure I frightened my girlfriend. She was sitting right beside me when I was trying to play this. She really appreciated the cuteness of it, the aesthetic, and everything like that. That part's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, what it does to people, can be frightening sometimes. So
Yeah.
There's been more than one occasion where my lovely fiance, who you might have caught last week, guest spot on our show, has stuck her head out the bedroom door and just been like, "Shut up! I'm trying to sleep." And then I try, and it doesn't go very well, but I try.
So speaking of things that's horrifying what they do to people when they're exposed to it for too long, Disney. Mitch, you
Yeah.
were on a Disney podcast. Please tell us
I
very
was.
quickly about that.
Yeah, quickly, you can check out Disney Plus Us wherever you get your podcasts. I was on their latest episode talking for almost 2 hours, which they said is their longest episode ever, about the Imagineering story. I love that series. It was a great documentary about the history of Disney parks around the world, and if you're interested in all at that, I linked it out on Twitter. You can find me, Mr. Mitch George, and you can find it from there. But it was a ton of fun. I listened back to it today. It was great. Good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very excited to listen to it because I want to watch. Because like what you've said about this series on Disney Plus actually might get me to resubscribe to it, at least to watch this, because this sounds super intriguing. And honestly, the theme parks, even though I've never been to one, it's probably the most interesting part of Disney to me. Like just because it is kind of shrouded in that mystery for me, at least right now, because I'm unfamiliar with it. So this is probably the best way to do it. And then I have this 2-hour discussion podcast. So that's like on my checklist of things to do. But with
I'm
that,
so looking forward to hearing what you say.
yeah, I can't wait. But with that, we'll have to wait and see what my thoughts are at a later date. But with that, we can talk about the news of the week. So, first item, this is coming from IGN. Joe Skirbles, I think that's how you say it. I'm so sorry if that is wrong, which it probably is. Control will only get a free next gen upgrade with the new Ultimate Edition. So yeah, so today, was it today or was it yesterday that they announced the
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
today, August 12th, Remedy and 505 Games announced the new Control Ultimate Edition, which is basically just the Game of the Year edition. It comes with all the DLC for Control. But like
edition that was available at launch, it is just the base game with all the DLC.
yeah, there's nothing special about it except for 2K, because 505 is a subsidiary of 2K. They are making it so that you have to buy this brand new full price edition of Control to be able to get the upgrade for the PlayStation 5 and Series X, which is absolutely despicable, especially for a game as good as Control and that genuinely fucking needs the Series X or the PlayStation 5 upgrade, because oh my god, that game runs like garbage on the PlayStation 4.
On the Pro, it chugged for me a bit.
Yeah. And the fact that it's like, that means that they're holding back the ray tracing update, because this was one of the first games to really one of the first mainstream games to have like ray tracing baked into the game. There's so many things about this that's just garbage, and it continues to show that 2K just sucks. They really do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one thing if it were a new game coming out, nobody had played it before, like they did with basketball. Like I'd be willing to kind of concede that idea, as much as it sucks and kind of goes against like the smart delivery promise or anything like that. But because this is a game that a lot of people already have played, a lot of people love, people who have it already, who supported, who believed in this game before it was released or even after it was released and loved it, are essentially getting screwed.
Yeah, that's the thing, is this game wasn't super huge when it came out either. So you're only punishing the people who actually bought your game and who actually enjoyed it. Like it just
Well, that's the thing is, Control got as popular as it did largely via word of mouth. So those people that were championing this game from when it released in 2018 to now are the ones that 2K and 505 are just saying, too bad, buy it again. Small correction to what you said earlier, though, Alex. It is not going to be a full price release.
Okay.
In the US, the MSRP is $40, so here
Okay.
probably 50. At
Okay.
the same time, I still think it is more egregious than the move they've made with NBA, just because to AJ's point, NBA is a new game. You have the
Mhm.
choice when you're buying that new game, do I get the one I can play on this box, or do I pay a little more and get the one I can get on both? This is
Mhm.
an edition of a game that's coming out like a year later with all the content's already available. The only thing they're gating behind this Ultimate Edition is the next gen upgrade, and that is scummy business, and I hate it.
Mm.
My now, I don't want to get super far into this, but so what does that mean for backwards compatibility? Like, what will this game not run on my PS5 unless I have this version of it, or is it the PS5 version? Like, what does that mean?
You won't get the next gen version unless you have this version of the game.
But will it still be able to use the PlayStation 5 hardware to run the game better? Like, what does
Maybe?
yeah,
We
like,
don't-
I think
we don't know
probably
what
to a
that's gonna be.
degree.
yeah,
It just
like,
won't be well optimized or whatever.
yeah, like I have a feel like with this game, it's probably not going to have ray tracing.
No.
That's probably going to be like the biggest thing. But like that was kind of my biggest question of like, but what does that mean for backwards compatibility? Because the PlayStation 5 has, like, they've said that the PlayStation 5 will have backwards compatibility, and they
And the
did.
Xbox Series X.
Yeah, of course. That was a given, but like the PlayStation 5 is still like unknown for them, like is still a little bit more unknown. But like when they did say that after a certain date, all games that are releasing on PlayStation 4 will be backwards compatible on PlayStation 5. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think Control fit in that. But I don't know. Either way, this
Control should have. I think it was anything after like September 2018.
yeah, that's what I'm
Something
thinking
along
as
those
well.
lines. Or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Or sorry, not 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
I don't
So either way, this is super, super scummy, and I am really sad because Control is such a wonderful game that I want everyone to play, but I don't want to support them with
the
this.
other thing they announced here was a Steam version of the Ultimate Edition of Control. And y'all saw last week's episode. You know I'm building a PC at some point very, very soon. There's a case and a motherboard sitting behind me at the moment. GPU and CPU should arrive tomorrow. I think if I was going to look at picking up an upgraded version of Control, it's going to be on PC, at least for me personally.
Yeah. That's probably the way to go, especially with the graphics card you're getting. But now, moving on, and it's unfortunate we do not have Nathan here because he's probably the one who would have the most to say about this, but I think everyone can still kind of come in a little bit. I'm going to probably not pronounce this name as well. This is coming from gamesindustry.biz. James Batchelor, Yonashiro?
Yoshinari Ono.
There you go.
Okay.
I don't want to
Oni?
like.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to
Mhm.
like get too angry at you and all because it is a name from another language, but it's like we just whenever we're confronted with a Japanese name, this is something
I'll
that
just
everybody
ask
here
you.
who's watching the Twitch stream and everybody here who's in this Discord call, everybody, I want us all to link hands. We all have to agree that when we read a Japanese name, we have to take it
Mhm.
slowly. We don't barge through it like a train that's barreling at 100 miles per hour that Spider-Man has to stop. We have to look closely, be like, yo, shi, no, ri, o, no, leaves Capcom.
Okay.
We're all in agreement?
You got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm assuming that only Alex actually agrees with me because I noticed that Mitch and AJ were not holding out their hands when I said that.
Oh, I was
Mitch-
definitely. You didn't
yeah.
see me going
Come
like that.
on.
Come on.
Okay. Either way, so the Street Fighter producer departs this summer after almost 30 years at Capcom. That's kind of insane. One of the things that, because Nathan was talking last week about the new season for Street Fighter V being the final season for Street Fighter V, made
Mhm.
me wonder, as I was editing the podcast, I kind of wish I asked him this question. Do we think that means that there's going to be a Street Fighter 6 if this is going to be their last season in 5? That means that they're probably going to be gearing up towards a new Street Fighter game. But
well,
if-
There were rumors around this announcement because this last season kind of came out of nowhere.
Mhm.
There were rumors around this announcement that Street Fighter 6 was heavily in production and had to be reworked in some way. in some
Right.
fashion,
Okay.
and that Ono had actually been demoted as producer on the series
I was
internally at Capcom.
Yeah, I was listening to the Giant Bombcast and they echoed the same thing. Japanese business culture is a little different where, you don't just get fired. And most people don't just, leave a company, right? Unless they're like kind of forced out. But like if he stayed there too long, he would be most likely based on historical goings on in other Japanese companies would probably be demoted all the way to something like a janitor. Meanwhile, he pretty well made look at what happened with Konami over the years. The horror stories that came out of Konami, not like Hideo Kojima, he got out, but like other not necessarily big public names, but people high up in the food chain just sort of didn't get treated well when they stopped performing the same way. But one of the rumors that came out regarding this one specifically was he apparently tried to make King of Fighters Dragon Ball Fighters change to what would be the new Street Fighter, whatever comes next, where it would be a 3v3 team game, and nobody on the team was having it. And yeah, okay, great, you can say creative differences, but you end up running into historical issues with Japanese business culture and whatnot.
So go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, like Yoshinori Ono helped bring the fighting game scene and Street Fighter as a series back to prominence with Street Fighter 4 about a decade ago. But since then, there have been a lot of high-profile misses within Capcom's fighting game scene. There was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which wasn't that great. There's been Street Fighter 5, which we did a whole video game rehab episode about. There was Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which had its issues. And unfortunately, I'm not super well versed on the situation to know how much of those projects' failures were his fault specifically. But I very much believe that this was Capcom management basically getting fed up with his performance within the studio and being like, all right, you're out. We need to kind of move on and forge a new path without you because you're not helping the situation.
I mean, it's unfortunate because he has been the face of Street Fighter and fighting games in general, like Capcom, for the better part of 3 decades. I think it's the right time to make a change, and I'm glad that they're recognizing this within their organization. At the same time, I wish him all the best because we wouldn't have fighting games we do today without his influence at Capcom over the last 30 years.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because Capcom, as of recently, has really been in a golden age between what they've done with Resident Evil, Monster Hunter World, Devil May Cry 5. And so for them to make a big change like that, I really wonder what the future of Street Fighter is going to look like now. My biggest question is, when are we going to see him come back with a Kickstarter? Because Kojima didn't have Kickstarter, but Keiji Inafune did it. The person, I don't remember his name, from Castlevania did it. All the people who used to helm, yes, all these people who used to helm these major franchises, when they left their respective companies, just went off and kind of did their own thing. How long do we think it's going to be before we see Ono do it with a fighting game?
I don't think it could be that long, but I feel like at this point, that service has almost kind of become a bit of a toxic name. I feel like if you're going to kickstart something today, you better be 100% certain about its success, because otherwise I feel like the chances of us getting a mighty number 9 from Yoshinori Ono versus I don't know, name... I can't even name off the top of my head a really successful Kickstarter game.
Hollow Knight is or not Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight. That's what
there we go.
Was the big success story from Kickstarter.
Yeah, I don't trust many creators nowadays to pull out a Shovel Knight on Kickstarter these days.
Yeah, I think some of that might come up later in our discussion around video game delays. But I think Alex, Hand it back to you.
So with that, speaking of games that may or may not have been delayed, who knows? But games that have taken forever for us to have seen anything of, Rocksteady has teased their new game.
Finally.
We don't know what it is, besides the fact that it is Suicide Squad.
And it's apparently a video game.
It apparently is a video game.
More details to come at DC Fandom, just like everyone predicted.
Yeah, so Rocksteady on August 7th tweeted, "Target locked, DC Fandom, August 22nd," and it's a picture of Superman, the back of Superman, with the Suicide Squad logo, like a target on the back of Superman's head.
Yeah,
Well-
and the rumor here is that the game is going to be centered around, the Suicide Squad having to hunt down or in some way, subdue the Justice League themselves, which is why we're seeing this imagery around Superman. It's going to be really interesting to see. It almost sounds like from some of the rumors that it's going to be a similar style of game to Marvel's Avengers, which is very
Very
interesting.
That would be
Another
Yeah.
one of these games as a service, as a superhero game.
That-
But if
Yeah.
anyone can make it work, it's Rocksteady.
That makes me a little sad, just in the sense that, like, if that is true, Rocksteady's so much better than that.
Yeah.
But
You can say the same thing about Crystal.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I'm open to it, but also I kind of hope that's not true. Though DC Fandom is going to be very, very heavily Suicide Squad, because the Suicide Squad, which is James Gunn's movie, is going to be there, and I'm so excited
good.
to see what that looks like.
Yeah. Should we live stream that?
I'm down. Well, I'm down to at least live react to it.
It's also 24 hours long, so that might not work out, but we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
You
Either
guys
way,
can do that.
how about we
I don't
post
particularly
it?
care about it.
Either way, there's not very much information about this. We'll find out more in 2 weeks.
The
Just
23rd?
a week and a half. We'll find out more about this in a week and a half. So stay tuned. I'm interested to see what Rocksteady does, because they haven't made a bad game yet, at least in the DC universe. So with that, we can jump to it's a bit of a tease to our Xbox news, but the Xbox Series S seems to have been confirmed, because their controllers have just been out in the wild. So so this on Twitter, let me pull up the article, because this is from GameSpot. Eddie Maku. Reading comprehension is hard for me, guys. Either way,
you're doing words real good today.
yeah. Either way, there was a Makooch. Okay. So on Twitter, there's been some leaks of the white Xbox Series S controller, and the reason we know it's the Series S is because that's what it says on the side of the box. It is essentially the same thing as the Series X. It's just white. That's the only difference with it. But this basically has confirmed that Lockhart is going to be the Series S. Now, what that consists of, we're still not sure, but I would be surprised if we don't see what that is going to be this month.
Yeah. Like it's pretty clear, like, these things fell off a truck, because, like, oh,
what? Hold on a second. Nathan, what are you doing here?
Oh God, I'm gonna have to cut all of this out.
Did he butt dial us?
I literally have to cut all this out because we have no audio from him.
Oh yeah, I think he butt dialed us. Can we kick him?
Can I kick
Oh,
him?
we can kick him, yeah.
Oh, thank
there we
God.
go.
Okay. And we're back.
Yeah, no, like, these things clearly came off the back of a truck. And like they were somebody else, like, bought them off of, like, this other site that's similar to, like, a Kijiji or something like that for like $35, which is like nothing. Maybe somebody didn't know what they had, or they just didn't want to push it. Like, it looks unassuming enough that, like, hell, even in a retail store, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody thought, oh, it's just for the Xbox, it's a controller for the Xbox, great, put them out, who cares, right? And then when you scan it in at Walmart or something like that, and it doesn't go through, well, oh, that's weird, well, just scan one of these ones, it's fine, it's the same thing. there's so many scenarios that could have happened. But one interesting thing about this controller is it's confirmed now to have a share button as well, and a new.
That was already kind of.
Well, yeah,
we
it
knew
was.
that.
I feel like it was a little different before, but like they actually named it the share button.
Okay.
Properly.
Fair enough.
I mean, this is just like, why has Microsoft not already shown this thing? We know that as things start to get closer to release, these things are going to happen. Things are going to
Yeah.
be seen in the wild. They're found in the wild. Like their marketing for this just seems very odd. And I don't know why we're so close to a presumptive November release date, at least for the Series X. Yet we know nothing about this second box.
They're playing chicken with Sony in terms of price, and probably most likely part of their price announcement is going to be, oh hey, the Series X is going to be this much, the Series S is going to be this much, and you can always for $100 get an Xbox One and whatever. But
this is bizarre, but this also, I think this mostly, for me at least, because we don't know what the Series S is, that this just confirms that like at least they're in production right now, and so we're probably going to start seeing more leaks like this very soon. But
show us the damn box, Microsoft.
Yeah, at this point, it's only a matter of time till we see it. But that's not the only big Halo, or I'm getting ahead of myself. That's not the only big Xbox news that's happened, because yesterday, out of nowhere, it kind of was out of nowhere, Halo, basically, Halo and 343 just reached out to a bunch of journalists and made a blog post just saying that, yeah, guys, we need to delay this game until 2021. And
all my troubles seem so far away.
It was claimed by
now
Apple.
It looks as though they're here
it's
to
identical
stay.
to the original.
I believe in yesterday.
I'm gonna wait until
who
it's
sings
finished.
that? John Lennon.
You should probably let him do that.
Okay.
Well, he's dead, so he can't.
His hologram can, goddammit.
Either way, let's get back to the important news. Halo Infinite.
Yes,
It kind of really is.
It kind of really
By the way,
is.
it's not actually.
It is to Microsoft and
it's
Xbox's fundamental plans. That
it's
they're doing.
Paul McCartney, by the way. It's not actually John Lennon.
Okay, well he's not dead.
I needed to make sure that I
Oh my
got
God,
that right.
okay, we're talking about Halo.
So I knew it was Paul McCartney. I was just letting you make the mistake, but just because it played better into the joke to, say what I said than correct you, but it's fine.
I love explaining jokes.
Halo?
Motherfucker, you're wearing a Halo shirt today because of this.
Not that delayed, motherfucker.
So hey, none of us predicted that it was going to get delayed. So fuck all of you.
We weren't allowed to because of the rules of the game. If the rules of the game had said we could predict games without release dates would be delayed, then I would have said so. But we didn't. So
yeah, sure. Okay. Well, this is huge because this was the game for the Xbox Series X that they were touting. One of the biggest things that 343 came out and said was the main cause of this has been the COVID situation. I have a lot of thoughts about this as the resident Halo nerd. This is a really good thing that this happened. Let me just...
You sure?
Halo.
This is a good thing for 343 and Halo Infinite. That is the part that I am focusing on right now. This is terrible for Microsoft.
this is
Yes.
awful.
They have nothing now, which is really bad.
They have the largest launch lineup in history because it's full of old games that you don't really need to play anymore.
Yeah. Like, they're going to have to really, really try to coast on third-party games, which, yes, they are probably going to look very great on a Series X, but why would you want to buy a Series X at that point when you get a PlayStation 5, get all those games, and get Miles Morales, if there is nothing to pull you? And yes, Halo Infinite would have been available on the Xbox One, but like Halo Infinite is going to be the shiny toy for the Series X, and it's not there anymore. This is a very good thing for Halo. Clearly that game has been going through a super troubled development. The fact that it took till what was before the year of its release for us to see anything about the game was very telling enough. I think that this is going to be a really good thing. It means that they can help like fix a lot of the graphical issues with the game. Ray tracing hopefully will be at the game at launch. Like I'm really hopeful. The fact that Microsoft let 343 do this means that they do understand the severity of this game, at least to the Halo franchise. I don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to the Series X as a console and a launch lineup. Like it just kind of doesn't. I've been pretty like, oh, I really like what Xbox is doing. I like what Microsoft is doing with their stuff. They're being super open about stuff, and you know I mean, it felt like they had a plan, and this is what they were doing. I don't know if I can say that anymore. I really don't know if I can say that anymore.
So
I think you can, to be honest. I think Microsoft is still making the open, transparent moves that are best for gamers, best for their developers. I really hope this means that we're not going to hear stories about crunch at 343 3 or 4 years down the road of how even with this delay, they were still crunching 12, 14, 16-hour days, because that would suck. If you're going to take this time to make sure your developers are building a good game, make sure you treat them right first.
So Patrick Klepek over at Vice Gaming on Twitter, he tweeted something. I'm just going to read it verbatim here. I've been hearing for much of this year that the transition to work from home amid COVID-19 was having an especially big impact on the final stretch of Halo Infinite's development. The delay makes a lot of sense, even though I wondered if they would actually make the decision. My running theory had been that they'd delay the campaign and launch free-to-play multiplayer at launch, though.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm super glad that they are not doing that. I really want Halo Infinite needs to be a full and completed package when it comes out. There can't be any outstanding issues like they had with the Master Chief Collection where it just didn't work. This has to be a banger, and them delaying it to 2021 is the best possible move for this game, and makes me more excited for the game when it comes out, because I now know that they are dedicated to taking the time that they need for it.
Moving past all of the memes and jokes and ha-has and guffaws, do you think that this delay is going to result in our favorite grunt being redesigned and giving a nice facelift?
You mean Craig the Brute? Absolutely not.
Craig the Brute.
Craig is a mascot now. He's the official Xbox mascot as per Phil Spencer.
Craig and Fall Guys.
Craig needs to stay the way that he is because he is perfect. But yes, I do think that this is going to fix a lot of the technical issues around it. I do think that there will be some like actual there will be a brute that still is Craig. And
I was going to say, you're pretty knowledgeable when it comes to Halo, right, Alex?
I would like to think so.
Isn't there a part in Halo 3 where like you can go into a hidden area and find like a bunch of weird monkey men hanging out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was going to say, they should do that with Craig as well. They should have just like a bunch of him inside of a room, and they all look like those like Russian nesting dolls where they go from big to small.
Yeah. I'm hoping Craig will forever, because this game is it's going to be a games as a service and it's going to constantly be updated. I'm hoping Craig makes an appearance in every single update. But that's just me. I think 343 has embraced Craig.
Okay, but like maybe 20 minutes after this news broke, Microsoft reiterated that the Series X is coming out in November.
Yeah,
yes.
So
Why?
we have a launch window.
Why?
A launch month.
Why are they still launching this console this year?
Do you really think they could not put the Xbox Series X out alongside PlayStation 5?
I
don't think they care at this point. The console means nothing to them. It's just another box to play the game on. They don't care about generations, so what matters if it comes out the same holiday window as the PS5?
I think at this point there are too many wheels in motion that to be able to delay a console like this, I think would require a lot of I just don't think it would be possible at this point, even though we don't have a price and we don't have a release date. But I just think that there's too many things, there's too many deals going on with different distributors, and production of the things definitely had to be happening. And once you make the stuff, you have to have a place that you can bring it. And if you can't be selling your stock of it at stores, for however much it's going to be selling, I think that there's just too many things happening to be able to delay this.
If you think back to the 360 PS3 era, the 360 had a full year advantage, which helped put it in the lead. And then
for almost the entire generation until the very end.
Pretty well the entire generation until the PS3 came out at a substantial price in comparison, which only hurt that more. PlayStation learned the lesson for PS4 and everything, but you can. It would be a really stupid move to delay the console with that knowledge that, hey, listen, we're already behind. We cannot give them any more on their side if we want any chance to compete.
Yeah.
You know what else is stupid? Putting out a $600 box without any new original games to play on it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do. Only time will tell. We'll hopefully see more updates from Microsoft soon, but this is a big blow to them. But
Do you think this is like a first half 2021 delay, or like we're not seeing this again until next E3 season, whatever you want to call it, next year, and we see it in the fall?
I've been sort of having this debate with myself. A lot of people in the Halo community do believe that it probably will come out in the first few months of 2021. I'm a little bit more thinking that it's going to be in the last half. I think it's going to probably be November next year, is what I'm saying. I could be wrong, but I just feel like why not give them why not give them, because this feels like when The Last of Us Part 2 got delayed before it was delayed again, when it was delayed due to polish, not because of COVID, it was because they needed to polish the game, where I feel like Halo Infinite is not at the point where it needs polish. It needs substantial work.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about delays in a bit, but do you think that this delay could also be a thing of, well, we come to our fan base and say we tried as best we could, but we just could not make this experience the game we wanted it to be on the Xbox One. So at this point, it'll only be released on the Series X. Do you think they could go that route?
I don't know. That's my biggest thing with like this game, is I feel like it is a fundamental mistake that they are developing it for this 8-year-old hardware, or not.
Yeah.
Is it 8 years old? I don't remember how.
You have to build to the lowest common denominator, which would be a launch Xbox One.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge mistake, specifically because they are touting this game as the next however many years of Halo, that this is going to be the service of Halo. And we're going to see it sort of be like a Destiny 1 situation, where it's like they released that game on Xbox 360 and PS3, but then by the time that the Taken King expansion came out, they were like, these machines are just not powerful enough. We're going to have to discontinue support for them. And I have a feeling that it's going to be the same thing. But you are locking your game down on this old hardware that you can't really make the innovations that are now possible because of the Series X. So I don't know why they decided to do that. Like, I get it. It's because it'll sell more and they'll have more people playing the game. But also, it's like Halo used to be a system seller. It used to be the thing that could carry a hardware line.
Console launch, yeah.
Yeah, well, not even a console launch, because like only the first game did launch on an launch day and date with the console. But like, Halo 3 was huge and was one of those big booms for the 360. And then same thing with
That
Reach.
was when sales really took off for the 360.
Yeah.
Was the release of Halo 3.
Yeah, and it was the fumble of the Master Chief Collection and then the fumble of Halo 5 that was like, yeah, that's your nail in the coffin for the Xbox One. And it really seemed like they were kind of turning it around with Infinite and the Series X, but I don't know. They're making weird decisions, just everybody. I still have faith in the game itself, but I don't know. I feel like I'm sitting on a fence here, because it's like I'm both excited for the game, but I'm also incredibly worried about it, and that's just because I care about this franchise so much that I kind of overthink it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that at the moment Sony doesn't have that great of a PlayStation 5 launch lineup by comparison, like that worth celebrating? Or do you think the fact that, you know, PlayStation is already in advance means that ultimately it's not an equal comparison to make?
Yeah, like I mean, Miles Morales is big, but it is like a budget title, so they don't have like the huge.
We also don't know what's going to be there for launch, right? We know like launch
Yeah.
window or holiday, but we don't have anything that's like concrete. We don't know if Bethesda's games are launch. We don't know if the only thing we know is launch is Godfall at this point.
Yeah, like we can assume that Miles Morales and Bug Snacks are going to be launch games,
Ooh,
but like I don't know, the PS5 doesn't have like this absolute banger lineup, but it still has like you still are technically, if Spider-Man Miles Morales is a launch game, that is still Spider-Man being launched on your console, that you can, you know, sell it as that, where, you know, like I thought Xbox was in a really, really good position of being like, this is our franchise, this is the thing that people buy Xboxes for, and it's coming on our console day one. And now that that's gone, there really is no reason to buy a Series X now, like at all. Like even if you were a console player and you wanted to play Halo on the best possible version of it, you could get it on the Series X. That's not really an option anymore. So it's like, do you decide to wait, or do you just like, honestly, I really wish that they delayed it till like March or April of next year. Do like what Nintendo did, come out, no competition with the PlayStation 5, or not as much competition, not as direct competition, because you're not releasing at the same time, and really have a big splash of having like, this is your game. I don't know what Microsoft's doing, but only time will tell with them. And I think with that, we can move on, because we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, specifically the delays. But for
Soon.
now,
Later.
yeah, very, very, very soon. But with that, we can head into the read/watch all the things. First things first, this will be very quick. Screen Rant article by Alex Santa Maria. So PlayStation Store finally implements a highly requested feature. Mitch, do you want to sort of take this because you're a little bit more familiar with this?
The PlayStation Plus program exists today. If you redeem a game through PlayStation Plus, you no longer have the option to buy it. If your subscription lapses, you have no way to buy that game. They have now made it that you can buy a game that you have already redeemed via PS Plus.
Yeah, that's just a very nice. Yeah, glad that it only took them,
10 years.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's slow at Sony headquarters.
We've already talked about Japanese business.
Yeah, so that's great that they're doing that. What is
Yeah, it's
also
really
great?
convenient.
Yeah, what's also great is Cyberpunk 2077 Night City Wire Episode 2. It was 25 minutes. It's a great little in-depth dive of the music that a band that is specifically going to be Johnny Silverhand's band, which is Samurai, I believe is the name of the band. Is in-game. They went into the 3 different backstories that you can start as, and from what we can tell, those 3 different backstories really have different, like the way that the game is going to open is going to be very different depending on if you decide to be a corpo, a nomad, or a street kid.
Have you guys chosen what? Do you guys think you know where you're going to start? Have you figured it out?
I'm either going to go street kid or corpo. I haven't completely decided on those 2. Nomad is kind of the least interesting to me.
Can I admit to something?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't look at it.
My CPU is coming with a free copy of Assassin's Creed Valhalla that comes out like a week after Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
I'm probably not going to jump into Cyberpunk right away because I'm not too much on my plate. I'm sorry, Alex. It was going to be the inverse, and then free copy.
Yeah, that's fair. And also, it'll make for a better podcast because I will be playing the fuck out of Cyberpunk and I will not touch Assassin's Creed. So to be able to have people talking about both will be good. So I forgive you. Finally, they do go in depth with the different weapons and the different manufacturers of weapons. There's some really cool ones. Like there's one that's like guided bullets, so you can kind of shoot people around corners. It's really cool. The weapon system in that game looks really fun. If you are at all interested in Cyberpunk, I would highly suggest taking 25 minutes out of your day and watch the Night City Wire, because it's a great little highly produced piece of content that just like gives more information about this game, and it's coming up. Like it doesn't reveal anything, it's just more information. So with that, we can jump to the deals. And AJ, you are the only one to have deals, so please take it away.
All right. The first deal that I found here is the article that I found it on is on Rock Paper Shotgun. Yes, I will accept all cookies. Jesus. Basically, Forza Horizon 3, which is the one that
Australia one.
Wow,
Yeah,
really
the
prepared
Australia
here,
one.
AJ.
The what?
Never mind.
Okay. No, it's going to be real cheap for a while, because apparently they're going to pull it down from the store and stop supporting it. So if you want it, you may as well buy it. It's in its end of life. Forza Horizon 4 is out there, and it's also really good, and that's gonna keep going for the time being. But if you wanted to try Forza Horizon 3, you will either need a disc copy moving forward, or you can buy it really cheap right now. And then the second deal that I found is starting tomorrow, the 13th. So audio listeners, you missed out, and I apologize. A Total War Saga Troy will be free on the Epic Game Store for 24 hours, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern. That is Toronto time. Yeah,
I'm very excited about this.
Hours.
Yeah, I've never played a Total War game, but
yeah,
I've never played a Total War game, but they've always seemed kind of interesting. So, and the fact that it's free on Epic, that's just great. Epic is pretty cool sometimes. But with that, I think we can jump into the topic of the show. We've delayed long enough.
Do you want to take a short break or keep trucking through?
I had a good segue, but
how do you do it?
I got the button. Just tell me what I'm doing.
Okay, do it. I have to pee anyway.
All right, we'll be back in a minute, everybody.
Now, did you actually press the button this time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 54 seconds remaining. I logged into the podcast account. We're good. Also, hi subs who are still here and not watching an ad. You're great. We love you. Thank you for supporting us. And if there's anything you want to see us change or improve, please let us know. Well, Alex, peace.
I'm cleaning out my ear with the end of a pen cap.
Real quality content there, AJ.
Yep, only for subscribers.
I wish I don't know if clipping that would work during the ad break, but I'm not going to.
It might actually.
It's too late. All right, we're almost back. Is Alex back yet?
No, he's still
8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay, we're gonna come back. Be really quiet till Alex gets back.
I mean, if we wanted to make this more funny, we could all go away so that he comes back to a completely empty room.
Just hang up the call.
We also might come back to a completely empty Twitch chat.
Not in it.
We could just kick him out of the call and see what he does when he gets back. I should have ran a longer ad break.
Howdy. Is the
We're
ad
back.
over?
Oh yeah,
We've
we're
been
back. We've been
back
back
for
for a good minute and a half.
I really had to pee. I'm sorry. Okay.
Fine, go.
Starting now. So we've delayed long enough. Time for our topic of the show, which is about video game delays, a roundtable discussion. So because of the Halo Infinite news, we kind of came to the conclusion that we should talk about video game delays, why they happen, what we think of them, and just some of the most notorious ones. Which, when you guys think of video game delays, are there any specific games that come to mind for you?
Last
Yeah.
Guardian.
So for me, the one that comes to mind, this is kind of an unusual response, is Super Smash Bros. Brawl. If you recall, originally the plan was for Brawl to release in the winter of 2007, not long after the release of Super Mario Galaxy and Metroid Prime 3 and a few other prominent Wii titles. And it basically got delayed to March of 2008 in North America. It still released in 2007 in Japan. And the specific reason why I wanted to bring up this delay is that the rest of 2008 ended up being like a super barren year for the Nintendo Wii. Some of the only prominent games that we got that year outside of Brawl were No More Heroes and the Animal Crossing game that saw a release on the Wii. And so kind of accidentally, Super Smash Bros. Brawl became the biggest and best game on the Nintendo Wii of that year. And so I just want to start that off to highlight how, video game delays can be beneficial, video game delays can sometimes be ineffectual, but occasionally they can be serendipitous in ways that nobody could have predicted.
Yeah, I think something to make note of here is I'm sure it's going to come up more than once as we have this discussion, but the Shigeru Miyamoto quote of a bad game is bad forever, but a delayed game is eventually good.
I feel like that quote is like a game of telephone where every time someone says it, they like change a word around or they get
close.
some detail right. No, it's close enough.
I have the exact quote somewhere. Carmen, pass my phone. I do have the exact quote. Sorry.
I mean, I can look that up too if you want. I have a computer in front of me.
That's also
I made notes. So
that quote is also now irrelevant because of the whole patching games after they've come out. Like, No Man's Sky, I guess, is the biggest example of like a game that was bad at launch and but now is like a really good game. So the sentiment is still there, but just I wanted to be a little
the exact Miyamoto quote: "A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad." And I do still agree with that, even in the case of something like No Man's Sky, because even though it has been redeemed, how many of you went back to it after it was redeemed?
I did, for sure. Especially with the VR update. Oh my god.
But how long did you stick with it?
I put in another good 30 hours.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I started a new game. Like, I'm getting the itch to do that again.
I also want to get back to it, but the problem I run into with games like that is if your game comes out and it's not good, there's going to be other good games that come out when your game is redeemed. So why would I take a risk on something that is trying to be redeemed as opposed to something that's come out and is genuinely good now?
Mm-hmm.
But I think with No Man's Sky, like when it did sort of come out, like there was a really big community. Like when the No Man's Sky Next update came out, it was like this huge. There was like a lot of community talking about it, and it got people interested in that sense. And I think the Miyamoto quote has kind of evolved now that it's like the delays they happen. But now they happen, but you can still play the game that should have been delayed just by the nature of patching and updates come. Because like No Man's Sky did have the skeleton to be good. It only took the eventuality of these updates to come that could have been in the game, that they could have potentially worked on like before the game came out and delayed it, but it just wasn't the case. So I think and obviously that quote came out before patching was really a thing as well.
But,
so there's no way he could have predicted this is the way that the state of the gaming industry was going to be going.
Yeah.
Right, but let me raise another point or another game for comparison of a game that should have been delayed, had been patched, and is still a broken ass dumpster fire, and that's WWE 2K20. So that game should have been delayed. It was not. It came out. It was busted. They tried to fix it, they couldn't, and abandoned the franchise for a year to try and fix it. So there are instances where corporate decisions or greed or whatever you want to call it do force bad games out when they should have been delayed.
Yeah, and like, notwithstanding, like, well, I'm sure Nathan's gonna make us do a video game rehab on the WWE series as a whole eventually.
Oh
But
man, I can't wait.
Guys, I'm not. I'm getting a. I'm not going to be there that week. I'm going to come down with
Guests
something.
on that episode.
No, like, that series and series, that style of wrestling game needs a completely different revamp, and like the WWE license is like expanding in different weird areas, like with their card game,
A lot of mobile stuff.
some mobile stuff. They're doing some very weird and interesting things, but like it needs like a revamp. Like it needs to feel like a normal fighting game, like a Def Jam or a Dead or Alive or something like that. Dead or Alive has wrestling characters. That should be what they do there. But personally, for me, in terms of like a delayed game, you have Half-Life 3, which still isn't out, but that I don't know if we can necessarily count that. It didn't end up coming out.
Technically hasn't ever been officially. That hasn't been officially announced, so I don't know. That's more like
we can't call that a delayed game. I don't think
You
that's
could
fair.
count something like StarCraft Ghost.
No, that's not out either.
No, but it was announced. It was never officially canceled by Blizzard.
No, they've basically gone on the record and said it's canceled.
I think that was only recently though. There was a long time where people still.
I did a video.
Hope.
I still hold hope that we'll see something. There's been a big Nintendo leak. Let's have a big Blizzard leak. Let's get StarCraft Ghost out there.
I did a video
about mad employees. But
I did a video on the history of StarCraft Ghost in 2018, and in a 2014 interview with Polygon, the former CEO of Blizzard basically confirmed that the project was canceled and not coming to light. And I don't want to go like super in detail, but basically at the same time that they were supposed to be ramping up work on that project, World of Warcraft came out, and that was such a phenomenon at the time of its release, and also such a like unknown object. Nobody had ever created an MMO on that scale or level of popularity before, that it was all hands on deck, and basically that sucked away all momentum from StarCraft Ghost. Blizzard still wanted to keep working on Ghost. They still believed in the project, so they never said after that point that it was canceled. But it's one of those things where in retrospect it's like, yeah, we should have just said it was canceled because we kept up people's hope when we really shouldn't have done so.
No, I know, I just think that's a fun anecdote.
Yeah, there's been like a couple of games that kind of like consists of like being like the games that are never going to come out because they're constantly delayed and we know about them, but like, and obviously a lot of them, there's actually a good number of these games that were they're never going to come out, have come out. Like there was Duke Nukem Forever and Aliens Colonial Marines and The Last Guardian, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Like all of these games were kind of like they're never going to happen. They constantly like they'll get a release date. Last Guardian. Like all of these, like they'd get a release date, and then Persona 5 used to be one of those as well. Like there's countless numbers of them.
What's funny though is that I just want to say quickly that I feel like over the course of the last decade, there aren't many more of those games remaining. Like I feel like all the big, most mimetic examples of, oh man, this game's never going to come out, have come out. We've had Final Fantasy 15, as we already said, The Last Guardian, even Duke Nukem Forever come out within the past decade, and I feel like there aren't many more examples that still remain.
Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, yes, it's applicable to this conversation. At the same time, though, Metroid Prime 4 hasn't been in development for that long, especially compared to some of the previous examples.
2.
Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2, I would say, is probably the biggest one of those.
Yeah, I think that's a better example.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk did get announced in 2013. So
we've been seeing this game for a long time.
I feel like Cyberpunk is a little bit different, though, from Metroid Prime 4 and Beyond Good and Evil 2, though, where it feels like the entire time that game has been in development, CD Projekt Red has communicated well the status of where that game is. They were very upfront of like, hey, this game is ways off when they first announced it. Whereas with something like Beyond Good and Evil 2, the reason why there's so much skepticism surrounding that game is because the messaging behind, where that game is has been so fraught for such a long period of time.
The messaging has become, oh yeah, we're working on that. Also, we're making a movie for Netflix.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Their priorities seem a little mixed on that franchise in particular.
Yeah, well, that's just Ubisoft at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a video game retrospective on Ubisoft at some point.
Video game rehab on Splinter Cell, and why Sam Fisher is in no more game, or he's in every game except for Splinter Cell.
Every goddamn mobile pay to win friggin' Ubisoft cash grab.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we're not talking about that today.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I want to kind of focus on, because there's a few games that I would constitute that, especially like there's a few that have come out in the last couple of years that have gotten a release date very close to launch. They get delayed because the team is just like, we need just those few extra months to polish this game because it's almost there. This is one of the things that I've heard talked about with specifically The Last of Us. The first one was, it was supposed to come out in February, but then came out in May of 2013, or it came out in June of 2013. And they said that it was like, this game just needed that little bit of extra time. And that's why it was as polished and as great as it was when it came out. And it was just because they needed that little bit of extra time. And Sony, as a publisher, doesn't really announce their release dates for stuff unless they're very at least as of recently, in the PlayStation 4 generation. Like, we didn't in the documentary Raising Kratos, they talked about how they had a February release date. Was it February? They had an earlier than April release date for God of War, but it was internal, and they didn't announce it and then they delayed it to April, and that's when they announced the release date.
If I recall correctly, the plan was they were going to release God of War 2018 on the 11th anniversary of God of War 2's release, and they had to delay it by a few months because they're like, this just isn't going to work.
And go ahead.
No, if you remember Duke Nukem Forever, when Gearbox finally picked that up, right? They like, people kept asking, and 3D Realms kept fumbling it and everything, and then eventually Gearbox picked it up, and they eventually settled on a release date. They released teaser trailers, and they started to show a lot more of the game. There was like a collector's edition of Borderlands that had access to the demo that you could play. And then like a month before launch, they needed to delay it for like two more months to polish it. And they were polishing a turd in the end, but
it sure was a polished turd. And I feel like Gearbox has done a lot of that in recent years between both Duke Nukem Forever and its delays, as well as what you mentioned earlier, Alex, with Aliens Colonial Marines, where that was a dumpster fire they tried to release, and it also didn't come together. But there's been a number of instances where games have been delayed, and it's only been for the betterment of that game. There are games that people would consider some of either their favorites or perennial like games of all time that have been significantly delayed. The one that pops to mind for me, first off, is Breath of the Wild. We saw that game at what?
2014?
Near the reveal of the Wii U?
Yeah,
and
it was
one of the best games to launch with the Switch, which is crazy. But good game wasn't great, so got delayed until it was great. And now it's a phenomenal experience that people get to experience on a couple of systems. So there are a lot of instances where a game delay can only make for a better game. That comes to mind. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Resident Evil 4, which we haven't talked about much. That got a few delays internally in Capcom before they started putting dates on it that then also got pushed. Alan Wake, I know we like to talk about Remedy and the great experiences that they've put out. That was notoriously delayed as well. And Kingdom Hearts 3, one of my favorite games. Was delayed for a long, long time.
I
Yeah.
think that Breath of the Wild and Resident Evil 4 are, I think, some of the best examples of what can happen when your game gets delayed, where when those two games finally released, everyone is uniformly like, not only are these games great, but they're also very forward thinking in terms of their approach to gameplay. They are, utterly unlike, well, not utterly unlike, but they are a substantial step forward from where other similar games in their genre currently are. And I feel like, the fear that happens when you delay a game for a really long time is that if it's a game that's based that was originally conceived a decade prior, it's gonna have those like old school mentalities with it when it finally releases. That's one of the things that crippled an experience like Duke Nukem Forever, where there were aspects of that game that felt like a game that was released in 2011, and then there were other aspects that felt like it was out of the late 90s or early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. There's some pedigree of developers that when they announce a delay for their game, you're like, perfect. You know what? That's great. Like, I'm disappointed, I guess, that I can't play it when I was expecting to, but take all the time that you need because you've proven yourself to be a great, like, you've proven yourself that you will make that time worth it. I know that you're gonna be like, oh, they don't make good games, but Rockstar is very notorious for delaying their games. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 was like announced for the spring of 2012, and then they delayed it, and then they delayed it again, and they delayed it till the fall of 2013. Same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2. Like it was supposed to come out in the fall of 2017, and then it was delayed to the fall of 28 or to spring of 2018, and then was delayed to the fall of 2018. So like, and Max Payne 3 as well. Like Rockstar is very notorious for announcing their game and then delaying it at least like 2 times. So when you see the first trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 and it says spring of whatever year, no, you're probably not getting it then.
I kind of wonder, like, when we're approaching a new generation, like, it, as much as I do appreciate that new games are still coming out and we can continue playing them, right up until the launch of a new console, like, at what point should developers just be like, hey, listen, there's probably, in this window of release that we're thinking of, there's probably going to be a new console. Should we just prepare for that and release there, or should we just I don't know.
Go ahead, Mitch.
Fun anecdote about this. I can't remember the name of it. Someone can correct me or fact check it. But the spiritual successor to Suikoden was recently announced for Kickstarter. And the way they promised their Kickstarter platforms of release was that if it reached a certain stretch goal, it would release on the PS5, Series X, and whatever Nintendo is working on. So like they don't even know what hardware they're targeting for development at this point, which is kind of crazy. And kind of makes me want to circle back to talking a little bit about Kickstarter and delays that have happened there. But Alex, I'll let you make your point around what AJ had just asked before.
I just wanted to say that I think it's a little bit more complicated than that because not every developer is swimming in money that they can afford to delay their game. A lot of developers and a lot of publishers are like, we need to release this because we need to recoup the cost that it took to make this so that we can then go make the next thing. Otherwise, we're not going to be a studio anymore. One of the biggest examples is actually Monolith that developed Shadow of Mordor. They were planning to close their doors. Like, this is an anecdote from Troy Baker. Like, they were planning to close their doors after releasing Shadow of Mordor. And that game then turned into a smash hit success that then allowed them to go and make a sequel to their game. So I just don't think that, like, I don't think a lot of developers can afford to delay their game to be able to get it to the point where it will be the most financially successful instead of just pretty financially successful.
Then maybe on like depending on the situation and the business relationship, maybe some platform developers like Xbox or PlayStation at that point should step in so that launch lineups aren't necessarily so sparse as they have been in past years. But
going back to our show from a couple of weeks ago where we had Ben Wander on and him talking about their working with Epic on the release of Airborne Kingdom, and that they're essentially acting as first party and saying, here's your funding. We will be hands off, put the game out when it's done. And we're seeing that more and more from platform holders, from Microsoft with the decision around Halo, from Sony with decisions around things like The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima, both recently were delayed. It seems like it is more so when a developer is either independent or they're working to a tight contract with, like, they're not acting as an entity within an organization, that they feel a little more of that crunch, especially in the indie space, which can lead to a few games being rushed out when they're not necessarily ready. And an interesting example of this is the Kickstarter model of, we know how much it's going to cost us to make this game to get it out on this date. Sometimes they hit that, sometimes they don't. And there's been a number, I don't think I've ever backed a game on Kickstarter that had not been delayed. So the only ones that come to memory for me are the reboot of Amplitude and Mighty Number 9 are the only two I can remember having backed on Kickstarter. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, do you think that comes from just them, like, because with the Kickstarter, they have a set goal in mind, but then a lot of times, especially in like Mighty Number 9 case, it expanded way beyond how much they were asking for. So the scope of the game got bigger and bigger, and that's probably why they had to delay it.
What happened with
Well, that's
Shenmue
part of it,
3?
yeah.
Did like what Shenmue 3 got kickstarted? Did it like get delayed at all?
Shenmue 3 was a weird one because it was also being like, the Kickstarter was more to gauge interest, and it was also being financially backed by Sony. As far as I remember, there was some weirdness around that Kickstarter specifically. Like, they knew they were going to hit their goal, but were using Kickstarter sort of just as a marketing campaign, similar to the remaster of Platinum Games' The Wonderful 101 that we got recently. I do think, Alex, to your point, of the scope of those games gets larger the more they promise to deliver, and those games have to be delayed. And I think having to work towards something that may not have been your original roadmap or original vision can lead to a lot of these challenges that we've seen from games like Bloodstained, Mighty Number 9, Amplitude to an extent. And I know, at least for Mighty Number 9, I was so excited for that, and it absolutely fell flat to me when it released. I don't even think I played more than like 2 levels. So it's unfortunate when games get lost in the I don't know. Kickstarter is just such a weird place to me.
Yeah. So we're getting a little bit close to the end. So I wanted to propose one final question before we wrap this up.
Sure.
In the midst of a global pandemic, we're going to see a lot of game delays. Or maybe not delays, but a lot of games that were on schedule are going to be delayed. And I just kind of wanted to sort of see what like the feelings are of just like, we might get a really dry spell for the next little bit because of the having to adjust from working from home. And I wanted to sort of gauge like how do we think the industry is going to be able to adapt to their plans all being shifted very, very significantly because of COVID-19?
I feel like this is like the one move Xbox has with their position with Game Pass and everything. Like, if everything's going to be sparse, like, yeah, you know what? There's nothing that essentially new to play, but you might find something new to you that you never got around to, and for $20, here have a month of this, and go nuts for 100 games, and go to your local EP Games and pick up something that you haven't. It's going to be backwards compatible as well, but go back and play something you missed or whatever. It's going to be a big opportunity for that, for sure.
I'm curious if, coming out of the pandemic, the entire culture surrounding delays and the kind of like fraughtness and fear and anxiety that people have when delays are announced is going to be kind of dampened, where basically the pandemic is going to kind of show people that, like, hey, delays are ultimately a necessary thing for games to improve and come out in their best possible form.
Yeah, like I feel like one of the only silver linings of like this when it comes to the industry is we've gotten a lot more open communication about like, hey, this, especially like when reading the Halo news, it was like they were really bringing it home. Like, yeah, COVID-19 hit us way harder than we kind of thought it was going to, and we can't get this game up to the where we want it to be. So I'm hoping that, like you said, that the audiences kind of start to learn to understand what when a game is delayed, what does that actually mean?
For me personally, I hope it leads to more realistic timelines when it comes to video game releases when these big companies are planning their release schedules. I hope it means more runway for their developers to work on the games without having to crunch, without having to suffer through emotional, physical, and psychological trauma to deliver these things that we all love so much. Just
Mhm.
be better. We're all capable of being better. Just understanding, compassion. You'll get the thing when you get the thing. It might not be tomorrow, but it'll be here eventually.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
So with that, I think this was a pretty good discussion. I think we got to talk a little bit just kind of about sort of a lot of different aspects of video game delays. And so great job, everybody. So I'm gonna wrap the show up. You can follow us at Press YYZ if you want updates for the show when we go live and when we release episodes on any of the podcast services available. Mitch, where can people find you specifically?
I am all over the internet at Mr. Mitch George.
Perfect. AJ, where can people find you?
You can find me all over the internet at Times Hero, capital T, capital H. And before we go, I just want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Halo 3. Wake me when you need me.
I love it. Cozy, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Alex Kazina, and you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/CozyBearLive.
Perfect. And finally, I have been blatantly _Alex on Twitter, blatantly Alex on Instagram, and youtube.com/blatantly Alex. And with that,
Is it actually a custom URL now? I should update that.
it is.
Okay.
So with that, thank you for playing. Take care, guys.
Finish the fight.